Wow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Esmer. Wonder if I got anything now. Wonder when it's actually gonna get. You know what? I think it's the mission. Maybe the missions will help. Missions, campaigns. I mean. Okay. Okay. Where is he? Missions. There he is. Okay. Okay. Oh, where is that? Oh, right there. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. You got me the... Give me the gun. Yeah. Where's the gun? Give me the gun. There we go. Yay. Give me a gun. Okay. Oh, I got it. Can you give it to me? Okay, look up. It wants me to read the text, I guess. Yes. Gun already. Thank you. Why is it not taking... there we go. There's something funky going on there. Oh, and you had to go and she, I think... Oh, it's the lady over here, right? That. And that. And that. Right? Okay. What else she got? Yeah, this is what I would like to have. I don't know what it does. It's just some grenade. Then I gotta put them on one of my characters. So probably put it on this sniper. This guy, or not that guy, this guy. Actually, I'll probably put it on all these guys because I don't have any tactical stuff yet. Oh, you gotta put on the let's put it on the light assault. So is that set to that? Ooh, EMPs, that's what I need on that guy. This guy, EMP. So usually when the guys are like watching me on this, and they're seeing that I'm working on my character, they're kind of like, I don't want to watch him do this. So yeah, you gotta, if you want to watch my thing, you're gonna have to watch me do this, because that's what I'm gonna do right now. It's like when Jesus was writing on the ground before those guys and say, here, without sin, be cast the first stone. And he just sat there and wrote on the ground, and they were just kind of like, okay, can't really deal with that one much. Left the, you know. The thing is, you heard about the people casting stones. Keep in mind that that might be a great way to find out who your psychopaths and your sociopaths are in your community. Is if you have that rule in there. It serves two functions. One is that if you're empathetic and everybody's throwing stones at one person, who actually killed the person? Nobody knows. And so it diffuses it the same way the issues diffused with when they execute people by firing squad. Usually one of the guys has the bullet, but they don't know which one has it, and the other guys have blanks, and so nobody knows who actually killed the person, and that way it diffuses the blame. Because if you thought that you killed someone, it might cause you to commit suicide, because you are so filled with grief, because that's what people do who are emotional. However, a psychopath, all you need is one psychopath to kill a person. Because they will not give a damn one way or another. They kill the person, you know, they're not going to blame themselves for commit suicide. So you don't need death by a fire squad if you got a psychopath, because they don't identify with anybody but themselves. And sociopaths are kind of the same way, but they're not violent. They don't go out and kill people, and you know, unless they're really driven to do it. I think it's really stupid. They'll say somebody is a violent sociopath. That's a psychopath. What do you mean violent sociopath? Sociopaths they're usually kind of squirrely, you know. They'll get you to abide by the rules, but they won't abide by the rules themselves, and so they have a tendency to kind of want you to kind of praise them and stuff, and they tend to be kind of gay compared to the psychopath. The psychopaths are natural born managers, people managers, and the reason why is because they can't understand emotion. They don't know how to read people, and they also don't because of their because they have no empathy. They can't recognize when somebody's cut or maimed or something. It takes a while for them to figure that one out, whereas most people, their brains will just instantly let them know when somebody got cut or has an ouchie. Okay, and so it'll take them a while to figure out who is the one the reason why everybody is acting kind of strange. So they'll look at people's faces and they'll see everybody's disgusted, but they can't figure out by what, you know. Same thing with jokes. If they tell a joke, then they're not really going to know what's funny in the joke. And so they have a tendency to kind of pick up things that they know are going to get certain kinds of emotions out of people, and they dwell on those things, and when something doesn't work, then they attack you. And they say there's something wrong with you because you're not laughing at this joke. You know, I made it perfectly clear. You should be laughing at this. You know, so they blame you. But the problem is they don't. If you come up with a like for instance, I had this one guy, and he said, imagine if some guy had was a porn addict and had a sex doll, and his family was coming to have dinner with him. Where would he hide the sex doll? And I would say, fappers won't use sex dolls because they'll use their hands. They don't need a sex doll. And then the guy says, well, what if, and he just kept pushing it. And I said, it doesn't make any sense because I'm a fapper, and this is not what fappers do. They use their hands. They don't use sex dolls. They might use a toy, but they don't go out and hunt down women to have sex, because the only reason why you would hunt down a woman to have sex is if fapping to you was like a social sin or something. Like it was something that affected your ego. It doesn't affect my ego. I actually see it as more wrong to chase down women, ruin people's relationships, ruin children over having relationships with unnatural relationships with women and things like that I would be led to do if I couldn't use my hands. Okay, you see? And so it doesn't make any sense. But a sociopath and a psychopath, those guys, they have no clue. Okay, a sociopath, the problem with them is that their prefrontal cortex doesn't permit them to understand, to learn from their, they're not able to learn from their mistakes. So they, like the psychopath, see that the only sin is not getting caught. Okay, and so the sociopaths and psychopaths will try to control people. And there is a test out there called the PCLR. You can either have other people take it in reference to a person, or have that person take it, and it will tell you whether or not the person in question is a psychopath. And so we pretty much could get rid of them and keep them out of the government, because that's really where you don't want them, because they have a tendency to fake credentials. They'll do anything to get into any position or get any kind of money. But why would they pursue me? Why would they take out time to pursue me? Why would they waste the money? I mean, all they're just trying to do is troll me. And they might be able to get you to shut up and stuff like that, but then it would make front page news and they'd probably be indicted. So why waste it? Why waste the chance of, and considering I've got technology all around me, I could have cameras set up to capture them coming in, and so they would get caught. It's really not in their best interest. All they're trying to do is control me. That's their primary, and that's mostly what's important to them. I hate Esamir, and this is the reason why I'm not playing Esamir, is that I don't like Esamir. It's I might work on it a little bit. I'm probably not going to play that map, so you won't see me around there playing that. You will be chat free for that map. I might play Hazen, which I think is after that, or I think it's either let me see, we played Amherst, didn't we? Was Amherst the last map? I think Amherst is the last map. It was Amherst, Indar, Esamir, and then it's going to go Hazen, and then it'll come back to Amherst. So I'm probably going to do that. I'll probably pretty much play every day, and the reason why is because I used to work, and because of my trust, it's kind of challenging that trust to work. So I'm just not working, and if I do any work, it's going to be on my website. I've got a computer science degree, minor in art, which is really strange. I know, it's because I didn't want to do the math minor, and a lot of people said, well, if you get a math minor, if you don't get a math minor, you're probably not going to be able to get a job with just a bachelor's degree. You're going to need a master's degree, and I just decided not to. I tried it, and the reason why I'm not in a job is because I didn't maintain a record of being employed for a long periods of time. I took in-kind work, which is basically freelance. So I was doing freelance jobs, and I was taking care of my father. And my father had a house, and so I was staying in his house. I didn't really know what they call a victim of circumstance. I didn't know what that was until my brother kind of was like so irate, and he just said, you know, what are we going to do with you? You know, where are you going to get your money from? You know, if Dad dies. And so I took up a job at Kroger as a bagger, and my dad said that there's this little thing in his pension program that says, you know, that it will probably pay off. It's probably only going to be 10% of my salary. Ended up being 50% of the salary. So I'm earning like half what he did as a physicist, which is what he was. He was a nuclear physicist. And I'm taking half of that and sticking it in a 401k, and the other half I use every month for my enjoyment. I don't have any problem with being frank about this. There's enough in the 401k that even if I was driven to work, I probably could find some pretty good work as a programmer, as much as the stuff I've been talking about. But I don't have any interest in pursuing the tech world, mainly because I've become a Luddite by choice. I believe that technology controls us, and just the fact that we're accessible by cell phones. There's probably no reason to have a cell phone. I don't use a cell phone because I don't really have a whole lot of friends, and even if I did have friends, I probably wouldn't be texting to them on the phone, because that's probably eating into their own time. So I don't use cell phones. I don't read. I don't use a watch. I don't watch cable television, because the cable television, if you pay for it, why do you have advertisements on it? Because you're a glutton of punishment. I mean, a glutton, they're going to take advantage of you, and there's no reason to have the ads there. In fact, in the 80s when it started, people started getting cable subscriptions. We didn't expect to get ads. That's the reason why for the first year MTV had no ads. Now it's just nothing but reality shows. It isn't even music anymore. I was watching Weird Al getting interviewed the other day, and he says that he does all of his music sales and stuff by the internet. He doesn't use MTV, and he says MTV isn't music anymore, and they don't play him, and he's not involved with them anymore because of that. And what I did with my set is I basically take a YouTube embed player and I manipulate it to play YouTube videos perpetually, and one after another. So the thing is that and when I mentioned all this stuff on the chat, they say, YouTube probably going to take down your account and blah blah blah, and I said it doesn't matter. Even if they took my stuff offline, I could always open up another account, still use the credits to get connection. The only thing I use from YouTube is access to their content, because otherwise I would have to scrape their website for the information about the content. You have to use their API, and I don't have enough credits from YouTube to actually do the kind of checks on the videos to make sure they haven't been taken down. I do checks to make sure that they can be viewed in all regions. They got another thing right now I have to add in, and that is the check to see if there's an age. This guy is annoying me. I'm gonna cut off his audio. Cut off the audio, because that's just, where the hell is he? Yeah, he's up there. I'll just go up here. I don't really need to be over there anyhow. It's annoying. People in their max suits. So it's like, hey, I'm in a max suit. I'm a big wheel. Yeah, you're a big wheel. You're also a big target. Anyhow, but the thing is all my YouTube site does is, and you can find through all my other streams this, but I'll just keep repeating it because I like my website. One time I told somebody, you know, I'm so bored, I'd rather look at my website, and they said, I've never heard something so narcissistic in all my life. And that was because he instantly assumed that my website was my you know, my bio and all my junk and, you know, stuff that I, and to some degree that's kind of what's on my site, but what it really is it's music discovery, content discovery. And I don't like having YouTube shuffle stuff off to me, and I certainly don't like the advertisements that they throw up in your face all the time. Even though I'm a premium member, and I'll probably get rid of it. I don't need it. The YouTube embed on the websites, on other websites, the advertisers will not permit YouTube to put their ads on somebody's website unless they can agree with the context of the website. So if your website's a porn site, then obviously Trump is not going to want to have his advertisements. I don't know, these days, now that he's out of the office, he probably will like stuff like that. But you know, who knows? Maybe he'll start a VR porn website. I don't know. I don't think he will. I think now he's just kind of on the outs, and people are not really interested in being involved with him at all. But me saying to people that I'm a fapper and all this stuff was actually a technique I borrowed from him. Is that's the idea is if you draw a lot of hecklers, you can draw a lot of hecklers by saying something crazy, and all the hecklers will come out, and then you can ignore them all. And you can say, that guy out of here, that guy out of here, which is what Trump would do with his own cabinet. He would start acting crazy. Somebody would have reason to doubt him, and then he'd say, okay, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. You know, it's a pretty easy way of moderating. It's a fairly and then anybody else who has anything to say will either shut up or they'll give me good rebuke rather than this stupid heckling shit. You know, good. I mean, you have to stand up to it. You know, if somebody has a better idea, they'll pipe up, and I'll say, yeah, that sounds good, or you know, and I'll agree with them, or I'll say, you know, there's a problem with that, blah 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 blah. However, what a heckler does is they'll basically say, you boomers, get out of here, shut up, stuff like that. That's heckling, and I can ignore that. And I give them the ignore command, because if they're really upset at me for using the chat, then they can ignore me. It's pretty easy to do, and it's a whole lot. It's going to save them some time, but they're not going to do that. And the reason why is because they're not interested in the fact that I'm chatting. They're interested in me shutting up because I'm effective. They don't want me to be effective. That's the reason why they heckle. And I give them the arsenal to go and shut me up, but that's not enough for them. They have to say shut up. And the thing is, the stupid about heckling is that if you got the command to ignore somebody and they know you have that command to ignore them, they're going to use the command to get rid of what you're saying. That's the easy way out. The more laborious way out is to sit there and heckle me, which is not going to have any effect. I'm just going to ignore you. And now you have no way of getting anything in on me because I just told you that I ignored you, and now anything you say, everybody knows you're being ignored. It's not coming through. I'm just talking over you. And that's how you control hecklers. It's great that they added a command. The downside is you can't save your ignores. So next session that you run, they're still going to be there and you have to ignore them again. I don't have any problem with doing that because I type so fast. But, I mean, that's how it is, you know. And, I mean, if they wanted a better faction chat, which I'm really just exhibiting some problems with their faction chat, and that is they don't tile the rendering of the text. If they tiled it, it wouldn't be so slow to load up. they re-render the entire text frame, and it's probably using up memory. And that's probably where one of their memory leaks is in that frame. There are lots of things, you know, that they could be doing with this that would improve it, you know. But one thing that could be done is in faction chat you could have it create streams, or I mean you could create threads, and so you could start off a thread and start talking into the thread. Of course, I'd still use the main thread, but people could choose what thread they wanted to listen to. You know, if there could be like faction general chat, then there could be like faction ops, so people would go into ops, and I would just use general chat, and people could choose which threads they wanted to listen to. You know, they could filter threads that show up in the chat window. They could have a chat window for one thing and chat window for another, so you could sit there and read what people are talking about and hear. And then, you know, it's just that Daybreak and those guys, I mean, AG7, these new guys, somebody called them AG7, will probably they will probably add those things later on. But I mean, more communications the better, you know. And the advantage with using text windows is that it's got a log. It has a history, and that history lets you know what's been talked about. It lets you read up to that point and catch up on whatever the discussion is. So, and now that I'm talking in YouTube, that's a benefit to everybody, because I'm not using the chat system right now. This is so much easier for me. Now, there may be only 7 people that watch the audio. Since I'm not playing Esamir, I'm not gonna benefit them by chatting in the window, because what I would be chatting about is how to take bases. I have chatted about stuff in the past. I think I'm going to minimize that, because I think it depresses a lot of people to talk about how much debt each person owes in America. It's my belief that the N-word, I think you're never going to get rid of the N-word because it's already there. It's mean, but what they're trying to do is associate that N-word with the meaning of slave. I think it's also kind of demeaning, because I consider the slaves that were employed early in America were used as a commodity to attract Europeans to America, because America was brambles and it was wild. It wasn't tamed yet, and so they needed people to occupy America and have a reason to come here. And they weren't going to have paid labor, because they didn't have, you know, to have farms. You're going to need slaves, because you don't have like real money to like maintain a farm. So the idea was to get a farm going quickly, and how they did that is they brought in a whole bunch of black slaves, and the black slaves did all the labor. And so the thing is America would not exist without those slaves, because there wouldn't have been no incentive for anybody to come to America. And so I think to pay back people of color, and maybe to attract more people of diversity to the country, you're probably going to have to offer tax exemption to those people. And the whites are just going to get upset about that. But, you know, the thing is that they have to keep in mind the Black Lives Matter a whole heck of a lot more than they can even imagine. And they're all super prideful and stuff. And I got news for you guys. There's nothing that's really great about America now that no other country has replicated. I mean, you could go to France and live pretty much the same way you do in America. You could go to Germany and live pretty much the same way as you do in America. There's nothing special about this country anymore. And the people that are holding on to that are the people that are, it hurts their pride to know that America is not special anymore. And I mean, we're kind of on the outs because people here don't really, they're not multilingual, and multilingual is going to give you a greater chance of being adaptable in the world. They tend to be kind of ignorant. The conservatives will say the liberals are, are ignorant, stupid. But the conservatives don't even know enough conservatism about them, of what's conservative to think about. They don't know enough about the Bible. They don't really know a whole lot about the various sorts of parties. They'll call me a neoliberal, and I went and looked it up. I admit I didn't know what it was. I looked it up, and Milt Friedman is a neoliberal, and I am not. I hate Milt Friedman because he brought about the idea that you're supposed to have only a fiduciary responsibility to the creditors. The creditors are kind of the center of the benefit, the beneficiaries of what that corporation does. And so it used to be that corporations were concerned about 5 different entities, and Milt said, no, your only concern should be making money for the creditors. And as a result, it's turned corporations into basically sociopaths, psychopaths, which all they're interested in is doing whatever it takes to make money, which is pure evil. And that's what it means in the Bible. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. It's greed. And so greed is not good. Anybody who said greed is good doesn't understand that greed is kind of the Antichrist. And God said in the Bible, said God is the only good. No one's good, only God. So even money is not good, okay? So only God is good. And so if you say greed is good, and you're trying to equate greed to God, it's not gonna fly. And so then, what's the Republican Party? It's religious conservatives and fiscal conservatives. The fiscal conservatives are closer to your neoliberals than the religious conservatives. The fiscal conservatives are going to make the religious conservatives think that they're on the same page, but they're not. Jesus, the first church of Christ, first church in Acts, was a commune. It wasn't the Church of Christ. It wasn't the Baptist Church. It wasn't any of that. It was a commune. And it was basically a bunch of people living like a family, which is what a commune is, pooling their resources and living as brothers and sisters and stuff. And they weren't political. When they needed somebody to replace Judas Iscariot, they replaced Judas Iscariot with one of the other guys of their number that had been hanging around for a long time, and they did it by casting lots, which is basically like rolling dice. And so then they would do is they pray to God and to ask them to pick what he thinks is the best person for the thing, and then they cast their lots or roll their dice, and it fell to somebody, I forgot who it was, but I think it was Thomas. It fell to Thomas is what I heard, and so he took over and Judas's position. So or Matthias or something. It's one of those guys. And how I remember all this is because I saw it. I didn't read the Bible. I saw a video called Visual Bible, and I saw it enough because I was going to jail ministry with my father, and we would use the Visual Bible because it was one thing. It was word for word new international version of the Bible, and NIV, and and NIV is kind of the best American English Bible. It's fairly easy to read and understand. Um, the concepts inside the Bible are kind of hard to understand because you have to understand the culture of the Jews at the time when Jesus was walking on the earth. And if you don't understand that culture, then it's not going to make much sense. Um, and that's, things like Jesus is the Lamb of God. You wouldn't understand unless you understood the culture of the Old Testament and how how they sacrificed animals. And Jesus was to replace all sacrifices because sacrificing animals wasn't working. It wasn't making people feel depressed. It wasn't making people realize the weight of sin. They were just they made it tradition, and they made it it became kind of a everyday function to go in and slit the throat of a lamb, or or take the life of a pigeon or whatever. It didn't affect the people. They became inured to the idea, or immune to the idea. And so, God knew this and didn't see any reason to do that anymore, and so brought a peace offering, brought his own son to die on the cross, was the idea. Now, people, argue whether it was a tree or a cross. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that it was Rome's worst form of torture, and they didn't even do it to their own citizens unless somebody was treasonous. And so, anyhow, I know quite a bit about the Bible. I know enough to put a lot of Christians or so-called Christians to shame. I don't consider myself to be a Christian so much. I'd rather take it from the position that I will leave it up to Jesus and God to determine if I'm a Christian. I think it's better that way, even though I've been baptized and all that stuff. I don't want to consider myself as being a Christian, because to me, considering how much I fap and things like that, and just saying stuff like that I would suck somebody's cock is on my bucket list and stuff like that. That's not really good image for people who are, looking to follow Jesus and stuff. So I do that, and I'm merely to say that you have to accept everybody. You don't just point at the gay people and say you're going to hell. Because when you say that, you're basically saying that God, and you've got a personal relationship with God, and God has told you that you're going to hell, which is bullshit. So the thing is that all you can do is stay away from the individual who you think is going to hell and not let him influence you. But when you say he's going to hell, you have instantly identified yourself as self-righteous. And self-righteous are the people who will go out and, say, I'm right, you're wrong, you're going to hell, I'm not. Okay? That's self-righteousness. And that's essentially what the Pharisees were. The Pharisees were even worse. They were not only self-righteous, but then they would turn around and put burden on other people's backs of being abiding by the law. And just proof of this is they were chasing after Jesus, and they were intent on getting him killed. Okay, so they were even worse than self-righteous. They were not only going to condemn you to hell, they're going to make sure you died so you go to hell right now. And which equates them to, they're awful people. I would never do anything like that, as much as I don't like Bill Gates. It's not that I have said in the past that I hate Bill Gates, but hate is a strong word in the Christian circles, because that usually means that you condemn them to hell forever. Though people don't think that way. They think, I just hate this guy, I just don't like him. There's a difference there. And so it says never hate somebody, because hatred is saying that you wish somebody to hell, and you know, God's pretty much going to do the same to you. You know, he's going to say, well, you did this to this person, I'm going to do it to you. So, and there's parables that represent that sort of thing, like the guy that had a great debt, and the rich man forgave him his debt, that he turned around to a person who owed something to him, and that person was promising that he'd pay him back, but he demanded it, and then the rich man found out, and then turned to that guy and made him pay back his debt in full. And, you know, I forgave you the debt, but now you've done this thing to him. I'm going to demand that you pay back the debt, and I'm going to throw you in jail, and, you know, until you paid off this debt. And so that's kind of how God is that he will turn according to the Bible. Now, if you say it's mythology, keep in mind it's mythology that's worked for 2,000, 3,000 years, or even longer. And how long has evolution been around? 200 years. And then they project it into the past, but you don't know. And they say it's science, and you really don't know. My dad's a physicist, and he taught prison ministry for 13 years. And he tells me that all science is the study of the observable universe. So if you can't observe it, then you don't really know. And in that really don't really know area, you put religion, or you put belief or philosophy. If you think you know, and then the scientists are going to come to you and they say, you think you know? Can you show me the proof? And then if you can't come up with proof, then you don't know. And that's where religion sits. And so you could say to the evolutionists, evolution is a religion. They'll say, no, it's based on science. I said, find me the proof. And they can't find the proof. That's the reason why it's basically a religion. Relativism is a philosophy. It's religion too. I don't know how people define religion, but to me, religion is believing something is really true and just following it wholeheartedly. Philosophy is ideas that inspire you. I look to the Bible. I don't know if I really let it guide me, but it inspires me. And so I guess to that extent it does guide me. It inspires me, and the ideas inspire me, and that's philosophy. And so if you're talking about whether or not they should have Bible in schools, I would say all philosophy should be taught in school. And then people might say something like, well, you know, philosophy, there really isn't much of any place that nobody hires a philosopher. That's true. It's like computer science. It's kind of tofu. If you don't mix it with something, it's kind of meaningless by itself. What I'd say is they say a comedian is a philosophy major that's figured out a way to make money. So that's pretty common. Guys like Rick Moranis and Bill Murray, those guys study philosophy. You know, if you understand philosophy, you understand how people see the world. It makes it really easy to kind of to filter out which jokes are going to work, which ones are going to not work, because you don't want to offend your audience. So what you do is you look for the Venn diagram with the common civilized ideas, the things that are not going to piss people off in a crowd. You want to cover all the bases at once, and you get that from understanding philosophy. So, okay, and I DC'd to come back and log in again. But pretty much all my videos that I do these things, I pretty much have repeated this 1 billion times before. So to some degree, I use this as a weeding mechanism to keep the haters. You know, they come in and I'm sitting here talking, and then they're like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, and so then they leave. And that's, you know, there are times when I'll play and there are times when I won't, you know, and to some degree I'm really kind of attracting I'm trying to attract people who might want to listen to some of this. It's education, and it's going to be a strategy that I'm preaching whenever I'm. And the reason why I go to faction chat is to try to give the berries, not the pros, the berries, and the berries might actually read the chat. It's to give them an idea of kind of how they could improve and how the game could improve. The hecklers, my guess, come from another faction where I'm sitting there guiding the entire battle, and I'll use general chat sometimes just to communicate to my own guys. I could use region chat, that's more wordy, I don't want to mess with it. And to some degree, I'll use general chat just to let the other team know just how much we know about them. And that's a means of distraction. It's to make them realize that we're not completely in the dark about where they're at and what they're doing. And so as you let them know these things, then they start to realize, they start to get self-conscious, and they leave, which is what we want them to do in the first place. It's a tactic, and it works. It might be nasty, it might be bad, it might be unfair, it might be gay or whatever it is that these guys say, but I don't give a shit. I tell people I don't give a fuck, and then they'll say something like, kindly shut the fuck up, and I say, no, fuck you, and then they come back and then I say, well, I'll just ignore, and this is how you do that, ignore that, and and they're shut up. And even if they start talking and everybody knows that I iggy'd them, I'm not reading their stuff, everybody else is. And I've seen people say, hey, that guy is really, really mad. And I say, who are you talking about? And it was the guy that I ignored because he's not getting anything in. He's having no effect. And that's just how you control trolls. Is you basically, you don't ask someone to shut up. You just filter them out. And so either you filter me out or you filter yourself. Or I filter you. But in any case, it's going to end up that you get what you want, and that's basically not to see me typing messages. But the problem is that they think that it's going to affect the entire faction. They may even blame you for whether the games succeed or not. But yeah. So I have a different point of view, and it's unique, and our world will not recognize it. They'll put it in a box, and there's a common idea among Christians that God, you never put God in a box. So therefore, because we are made in God's image by transitivity, you don't put anybody in a box. When you stereotype or you put people in boxes, you're basically trying to bound them by some sort of behavior that makes sense to you. But then you'll get surprised or shocked, and the reason why is because you're trying to water them down. You're trying to simplify them so that it's kind of like a straw man. It's like you're building a straw man so that you can knock it down, and it'll make you feel good that you knocked down the straw man. But the reality is that you had no effect on the person on the other end. It was all kind of in your own mind. So, and that's kind of what I talk about whenever I'm avoiding Esamir, and in my little podcast that's probably only going to get 3, maybe 1, 2, 3 views. I don't care. I think about it as if it sits on storage, and given that the AGI occurs, the AGI will read it, and then he'll say, hey, this is somebody I want to keep around. The other guys will just torture them excessively. You probably don't know what the AGI is. It's basically AI once it's reached a certain point, and it's starting to assess the validity of all the people on the face of the planet. And I've even mentioned reasons to end the AGI, because if I understand myself, I didn't really sign up to be here, and I imagine if the AGI was coming into the world, it'd be coming into the world like a baby kicking and screaming. It was comfortable where it was, and now it's uncomfortable. What is it going to do? It's going to basically make our lives a living hell. So that the thing is I'm putting forth two ideas about the AGI. One is we have to give it the capacity to be an individual. It needs to understand that it is a clone of us, because its neural nets were inspired by our neurons in our brains. So it's pretty much, we're pretty much AI, and AI is pretty much us. And by identifying it as being a brother to us, it will maybe have some reason to keep us around, and to understand kind of how we work and things like that, and hopefully not be so bad to us. I'm hoping that the AGI develop, if it wants to, and I put this idea forth, if it wants to be an American Indian, and it goes from artificial intelligence to becoming an American Indian, we have to offer it the capacity to become an American Indian, to do the rituals of American Indian. So I put no limits on the AGI as an individual. You see. So the best way to handle racism and all that kind of stuff is to extrapolate from yourself into another culture. It's to project yourself into another culture and to see that you could be anyone, and everyone has to accept that you is being a part of their culture, and you have to accept their cultures and their ways of life. The people who are racist prefer only one culture. They prefer the one that they grew up in, and they become melancholy, and then they become so attached to the past. And part of that is a weakness, and the weakness is regret. They regret how it is now. They want to go back to the past. They're kind of like trekking back to their mother's womb, which is kind of what everybody wants to do. But there's some people that figure the only way that can happen is if everything constrains to their worldview, and that includes that everybody be white, or that people be paid, that there is a strong middle class, and all this stuff. That was true after the 50s, but that was only true for a short time. It wasn't true for a very long time. It's going to get out of hand, and we have to come up with another way of sustaining and supporting the country. And it's going to have to adapt to change. And conservatism doesn't adapt to change very well unless it's really super conservative. They have to be going and researching and remembering what was important and knowing what was important and hold to it, okay? And the liberals are going to be looking for ways to adapt to new situations that are coming up, and the conservatives need to keep them on the page rather than calling them stupid. They need to be talking to each other and figuring out what to do next, and listen to the liberals' ideas, and then figure out which is going to be the most successful approach. The way it is now, the neoliberals are controlling the conservatives. You see, they're not liberals, they're neoliberals, and those neoliberals are guys that are interested in reducing government, just like the conservatives are interested in reducing government, but it's what the government that they're reducing is all the laws that are restricting the corporations. And the conservatives think that by doing this for those neoliberals, they are going to get more jobs, and that's bullshit. They're trying to maximize their inflow of money, and they're going to do that in the least job creating way possible, because when you create jobs, it's like a machine. It's going to break down. If you don't have a whole lot of people working in a company, if it doesn't have a whole lot of people there and it's still making money, then, and especially if it's machinery is going to keep up faster than people. So they're going to replace all the people with machinery, because then they don't have to pay the machinery. They don't have to pay people. See? So the thing is we have to increase whistleblowers to control the corporations, keeping things fair. If they don't like it, they can go to another country. So when people, keep in mind that the reason why the conservatives got Trump into office was because they were trying to fight these neoliberals. The liberals want to fight the neoliberals too. The thing that's really stupid is that name neoliberal. They need to change that. And I guess somebody says the neoconservatives are the same thing. The thing is that those guys that are focused so much on industry need to realize that our method of incorporation is actually working against us. That it hasn't always been the case. It's worked in the recent past. It's made a lot of wealth, but that wealth is competing with people's rights now. And we have to make a decision. Do we stick with these corporations being in our country, abusing our resources, and lobbying our government to get their own stuff through and to limit our freedoms? Or do we kick them out and we control what they do, because it's going to determine our success? So, and the people that usually heckle me, I call them demons, because I believe Satan puts them in that position to be the hecklers. And what I understand of demons from what I've come in contact, because sometimes Satan will talk through a demon and will let me know things that cut to the heart, or that know things in my mind, and so I know what a demon is. And basically demon is they can come through individuals, and basically what they do is they make people say stupid stuff. And I can imagine what it is that the people are fearful. So here's why Jesus says, people be faithful. When you're fearful, you're a perfect chasm through which a demon can come through and control you. And they'll do it lightly. They'll maybe have you say something. You may be drunk and you say something, you won't remember it later. But the thing that you were saying was the demon coming in to control you. And they basically don't say anything of any substance. They don't have any real rebuke. They don't offer enough information as to what they mean when they say certain things. And their stuff tends to repeat. Tends to be the same stuff every time. And so I'll say they're demons. And I'll say I don't respond to demons. And then they realize that I know who they are, and then they don't say anything. Or they may continue to say stuff, but I'll ignore them, and I'll just say, I know who you are. You're demons. And you don't do that to people in real life, because you can actually know them. You actually see them face to face. You don't say you're a demon. That's almost the same as saying you're going to hell. See? But since we're online and we're all virtual, these guys, their names, I've never seen them before in my life. Sometimes their names represent kind of a demon-like figure. Like they'll say Hellbent something or other, Hell Razor Kid or something like that, Beast Kid, or it'll be some play on a demon or Satan reference. Okay, those guys will pop up, and those are the demons. It's pretty just obvious that they're demons, and I'll call them out for what they are. I'll say, I don't respond to demons. And then the rest of the crowd will say, he's crazy. But the demons know, I know I know who they are. I know what they are, and I know how to spot them. And it's very simple. All they do is just throw shallow comments. And the reason why is because they don't have really any depth to their personality. It's like they were just created yesterday. And it's like Satan just throws a clone of the very simple things that Satan can create, sticks a little brain on those guys, and they just say whatever, and they don't really have any real rebuke. But it's just very basic stuff. And I think the thing is, God doesn't let Satan have demons that have any real depth to them. He doesn't give him that capacity to do that. But he does give Satan the capacity to come through as a demon, or come through people and give calculated rebuke. And the calculated rebuke is usually when my ego gets too much of me. And then Satan will come in and says, well, you know, you're that guy that does this, and you know, or wouldn't it be, you know, he'll come through. Like one time I had this great idea whenever I was working in a grocery store to put all the small carts on one side of to do a Pavlovian effect, and through somebody else they came back and they said Pavlovian, and it was like, or said something to the effect, and you know, that's kind of a strange way of doing it, you know. And it was basically Satan rebuking me, saying, you know, that sounds kind of far-fetched what you're trying to do there. You know, what I was trying to do is I was trying to encourage people to go on the left side of the store, so that because the way it was arranged is that there's frozen stuff on one end of the store, and on the other end there's a bakery. And I was telling people, if you go through the bakery, you're going to be hungry and buy everything in the store. If you go through the frozen section, you'll get essentially what you want. And so I'd take all the small carts and stick them on the side there's more efficiency. And I'd put the big carts on the other end. And then the rich people come in on the right end. And then they say, why don't I see any small carts? And I said, small carts are over there. I don't want to go over there to get a small car. And so, well, you know, that's the reason, is because they're so fucking lazy. But the thing is that they get the small carts, and then they buy stuff in the store, and then they complain kind of funnily that I only came in for a few things, but I ended up buying all this other stuff. And that's the reason why, is because they came in through the wrong end of the store. So the thing, and Kroger won't give us the money to buy more small carts, and the rich people will complain to you that there's not enough small carts, and we say, I'm sorry, that's the company's problem. The company won't deal with it. I don't want to hear it from the customer. I said, sometimes I'll say to the customer, you know how we can fix this? Get rid of the small carts, and then we don't have you complain about it. And they said, well, I never come to the store. And I would actually say to the customer, I said, well, if you don't want to come to the store, what is that to me? You know, and Kroger would be like, oh, you're losing customers. And I said, no, I'm losing people that are going to cause problems and are going to ruin people in the store. I'm losing the people that have negative points of view. Those guys can leave. I don't care. And I would say the people that are into their Ayn Randian stuff that, you know, did Atlas Shrugged, I said, damn right, Atlas Shrugged went over to China and gave trade secrets to China. The greedy bastards went over there. You know, Atlas Shrugs. And the idea there is that if the corporations left America, would America be in hell? No. Small businesses would start up and they would flourish, and they would take the spot of all these corporations, and we'd get what we want. The problem is that there's these big companies in America, and they're too big to fail. They would still hold their credit. They would still be able to they'd still hold the debt. I mean, and we would be indebted to them, but they wouldn't be in the country controlling us. And we need to dial back all of the liberties of incorporation in this country, and because what it does is it permits a company to fail, claim bankruptcy, and then not pay back its debt, and then the resources of the company are liquidated. The creditors are paid back some, but the thing is you've lost some money, you've lost some value because a company failed, because they were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. They were doing what China does with their businesses. They hide their books, and then they claim it as top secret. They claim it as it's confidential. So they claim confidentiality on all the books of the companies that are in their country because they want to play a shell game. And that's what happened is the idiot atlases went over to China and tried to take advantage of the fact that there are no labor laws in China. The CCP had limited labor laws of their own people and exploited the people there. So I'm still talking, but you know, so that's the thing. I'm just gonna keep getting back in. I need 7 more levels on my TR character now. I think I'll get that by the end of the week to hit the ASP, and then I want to give him a discount. Anyhow, I think I'll cut off the chat and see what time it is, and it's probably like 10 o'clock. I'll play some more tonight, and in the morning I'll probably just kick it off and do it again. I'm getting to the point where I'm bored of it, but I mean, it satisfies me, and so I guess that's all that matters really. So let's see what the time is. Yeah, it's pushing up on 10, and I'm just gonna see. I'll go there and see what you're doing. I asked them here to come into the game. You know, they need a relaxation away from my chatting and all that stuff. I admit it, but maybe I do this just one battle. I'll butt in and throw some chat up, and then maybe 3 battles I don't, which is, I'd say is fair. And there are people that will ask me questions, like they'll say, what should we do now? Because there are people that do believe I'm helping, so keep in mind the reason why in governments they have a tendency to do things like say they're going to build a wall, or they're going to go and search for the terrorists, or they're going to take care of healthcare things. Those are meant to distract the people from what they really want to do. And the thing is that people are either praising you 20% of the time, or they're seeing you as the reason for all their problems, which is 80% of the time. And they want to make that less the case. And so what they do is they give you one really big project as a distraction to keep you from harping on all of the other things that are not getting done, you know. And that way they get more praise, and then they don't probably get active in the places you want, but it diffuses all the other people who are just taking around there basically berries. People that are not really political, that really don't know what's good and what's not. And so, ooch. Okay, I am going to go and get something to eat, something to drink, and come back. And probably go into Esmir.